Last time, Doug Phillips and Tony Newman went back in time to the Titanic. Right before they were about to be blown off the ship, the guys in the control room froze them and sent them somewhere else in time. The problem? Nobody knows where, including Doug and Tony. What they do know right now is they're in some kind of rocket and it's in the process of blasting off. They handled it a lot better than Dr. Smith did. Markings on some of the equipment tell them they're on an expedition to Mars. Upstairs, where the actual astronauts are, there's trouble.
Escape velocity?
Negative.
Inform mission control.
Can't raise them, Skipper. We've been out of radio contact since liftoff.
Keep trying. Beard, what do we lack?
75 knots.
Doc, what's the computer's analysis of the failure?
We're carrying excess weight in the service module. 335 pounds.
And now we know what they weigh together. The captain says that's over our safety limit. Prepare to jettison and destroy the service module, then attempt re-entry. And keep trying to inform mission control.
Service module? That's us.
They don't know we're in here.
We're gonna stop.
The control room finally managed to locate most of them. Nobody in the capsule can hear them, and they're proceeding with the jettison process.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
I don't think he was supposed to do that. Not to mention, I'm wondering, why did he do that?
What was that?
Velocity's increasing. Minus 20 and rising. We're gonna make it. Escape velocity. We made it.
I gave no order to fire the boosters.
It was an accident.
A rather convenient accident, but it explains why he did it. He has special reasons for forcing this mission to continue.
Doc, give me a fuel reading.
That was a 20% expenditure.
20. We can't break for the Mars landing and expect to lift off again.
We could use the backup plan, sir.
All right. We'll interrupt the flight and land on the moon.
There are fuel stockpiles on the moon, so they'll refuel there and then continue. Meanwhile, let's take a look in the service module and see what weighs 325 pounds and threw us off.
Pizarro, see if they're armed. How'd you get on board?
I'm Dr. Newman. This is Dr. Phillips.
From the time tunnel complex.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What year is this?
1978, of course.
Well, then you must have heard of this by now.
We're time travelers. We started 10 years ago. It was top secret then, but now
They're insane.
Doc, the guy in blue, says it could be true. A friend of his was transferred to a super secret project somewhere in Arizona, and some of the comments he let drop would make sense if there were such a project. But Beard, the guy who pushed the booster button, is talking the captain out of believing their story.
We're in the middle of the biggest race in history. A race to put the first men on another planet in the solar system. And there are other governments that would do anything to make sure we don't win that race.
So they'd be willing to sacrifice 2 of their agents to throw off your weight and get themselves blown up while you scrub the mission? That sounds like the most inefficient way of sabotaging a spaceflight I ever heard. The captain says, for now, lock them back in the service module. He has no idea what to do with them otherwise.
Any further identification, Ray?
It's definitely the MEM flight series. That puts the time 10 years in the future.
How does he know that? Nobody on the ship can explain how they got there, though Doc is ready to accept their explanation. He says, we're in space, headed for the moon and Mars. Is that any more fantastic than their story? But the captain isn't buying it. Now the question is, how do we deal with their extra weight and still make a soft landing on the moon?
In my book, there's a simple solution that will take care of everything. Throw them off the ship. Set them adrift.
Or maybe we could talk to them a little, see if they're nicer people than you are, and then set you adrift. I'm wondering how somebody like him made it into the space program. While Ray and Ann are trying to re-establish contact with the time travelers, General Kirk is showing some people from the space program around. There's a Dr. Brandon and an Admiral Killian.
May I present my aide, Ensign Beard?
How do you do?
Captain Gregor?
That answers that question. He's very well connected. The next question, what's his game? We may find out sooner than we think because the tunnel just made contact again.
The question is, Colonel, can we make a soft lunar landing with 2 extra men on board? Now, I don't think we can. Let's face it, Colonel, if we don't get them off the ship, we're all gonna die. I can't believe it. Is that me?
You 10 years from now.
Dr. Brandon says it's possible their added weight could make a soft lunar landing impossible, and says pull them out now, but it's too risky. Ray says, if you 2 space guys, Ann and I, put our heads together, maybe we can give the computer enough information about the MEM program to tell us whether it's possible or not. If it isn't, we'll risk pulling them out of there even though we don't have a completely solid lock on them yet. On the capsule, Nazaro has been working on the radio, trying to figure out why they can't seem to contact mission control.
Look here. This coil and several others in there have been eaten through by some sort of a slow-working acid. It severed our connections to the aft antenna.
Any way to fix it?
Oh, not without getting out in the hull, but even then I doubt if I could do much. This has done a pretty thorough job of severing communications completely.
Sabotage.
That's the only possible explanation.
Who could have gotten in there to do it and how? The captain immediately suspects the 2 strangers. Just as Nazaro goes down to get them, a warning alarm goes off and a meteor hits them.
Meteor. We're losing all our air. When it's gone, we're dead. Here, spacesuits. Put them on, quick.
Irwin Allen did love his meteors zipping through space, causing all kinds of trouble for spacecraft. Except they don't do that. When they come zipping through the atmosphere as shooting stars, that's caused by the speed of the Earth when we slam into them. Those little pieces of rock and ice and whatever else are just hanging out there with their bad selves, minding their own business until we come along and plow into them and burn the poor things all up. The Earth is a big bully. In the command module, they know they can't open the hatch. All the air in the service module is gone and there's still a big hole in the wall down there. They know the spacesuits are there, but it doesn't occur to them that Nazaro might have had the presence of mind to put them on. They assume all 3 men are dead.
How do you turn this darn thing on?
It's on. We hear you. Can you hear us?
Loud and clear.
How bad's the hull damage?
It's pretty bad, Skipper. Tell us how to make the repairs. We'll follow instructions.
He says it's not that simple. Nazaro will show you where the sealant is. They find it and say, now what?
It's a double hull. Both sides have to be repaired. One from where you are and the other on the outside.
Somebody's going to have to go outside and walk the hull. Nazaro's trained for that, but neither of the others is. Still, Nazaro can't do it alone. They're going to have to risk it. The captain told them they can't fall, there's no up or down. But I'm inclined to disagree. If you've read Ender's Game, you might recall that one of the ways he became so successful at the anti-gravity games was because he picked a direction, established that as down, and it kept him from getting disoriented. I do that here. The hull is down. That way it doesn't matter if the camera's upside down. In my head, I'm still right side up. While Doug and Tony are patching the hole, Nazaro goes to take a look at the aft antenna and see if there's any way he can restore communication. Meanwhile, the captain agrees. After this, there's no way he'd consider spacing them. If they can't make a soft landing on the moon, they'll orbit the moon and head back to Earth, much like Apollo 13 really did. Beard is still the fly in the ointment.
And lose the race to Mars. I thought that was the most important consideration of all.
I thought the most important consideration was always preserving human life.
We won't lose the race if we turn back, Beard. Doesn't matter which one of our crews win. This isn't a race for personal glory. Our backup team can be ready to lift off in less than 2 weeks.
They finished and come back in without incident. Atmosphere is restored in the service module. And there's more good news.
Here are the results. We can compensate for the added weight. Landing is go.
Very well. We'll commit ourselves to the landing.
Funny, his numbers weren't so certain until the captain suggested scrubbing the mission. I still wonder what his game is.
What's happening?
They've got a favorable estimate. They're going to try for the soft landing.
Oh, they can't do that.
Why not?
We've just finished an estimate of our own. If they try to land, they'll crash.
Anne can't get a response, so she can't move them. And there's no way to get a message to them.
We're descending too fast.
Can't you veer off, change into an orbit?
No, we're committed. We've got to set down now. Nazaro, you and Doc get the spacesuits.
Yes, sir.
I want all hands to put them on.
Why spacesuits?
If any part of the hull cracks when we hit the surface, wearing a spacesuit is the only possibility of survival.
And there are 4 suits. Doug and Tony don't need to do the math.
Going to impact. Hang on and pray.
The hull didn't break. They all take off their spacesuits. Everything was fine until Beard absent-mindedly said, "Let's see where we are," and opened the door.
Now, our main problem is time. If we can't refuel and lift off in precisely 22 minutes, we can't make it.
22 minutes? Well, we've still got a chance if I go for fuel while repairs are being made.
I agree. Nazaro, you check the hull and the aft burners.
Right.
I'll need someone to help me with the fuel. Doc Harlow?
Okay, Skipper?
It is. Go with him, Doc.
Doug says, "What can we do?" The captain says, "We don't have any more spacesuits, so you two can sit and find some way to amuse yourselves." Within 2 hours, Doug proved to be the world's worst gin rummy player and was into Tony for $786,000. Everyone in the control room is watching as Beard and Doc head for the fuel dump. That looks an awful lot like a plastic explosive bomb.
I've got a clear fix on them now.
Switch them.
It acts like a plastic explosive bomb, too. It blew out the controls, so they won't see what happens next.
Ready? Yes, Doctor, I'm quite ready. Now, let's go back to the ship. Well, there's no rush. You see, this is the end of the MEM flight. The end? I don't understand. You will, Doctor. You will.
So Beard is the saboteur, but why did Dr. Brandon plant the bomb on Anne's console? On the moon, they hear a scream over the intercom. The captain checks on everyone, but Harlow isn't answering.
He had a little trouble with his intercom, but he's okay. We'll be bringing the fuel in now.
All right, Beard. As soon as you can. Are you satisfied?
No. Neither am I.
Doug says, "Somebody sabotaged your communications. You know it wasn't Nazaro and it wasn't Harlow. It wasn't us, so that leaves Beard." The captain says, "He's the one pushing me to keep this mission going."
Well, naturally, if you return to Earth, your backup crew would leave immediately for Mars.
They still can.
But not until Mission Control finds out what happened to this crew. Now, that's basic policy. And by the time they do, if ever, it'll be too late to win.
Bear in mind, Mission Control has no idea where you are or what your status is right now because they can't communicate with you. So they're not going to do anything except search for you. Meanwhile, whoever the enemy is will leave you in their space dust, probably stopping at the moon to pick up Beard after he's finished killing the rest of the crew, including you.
What am I expected to do about this?
Get out there and find out what Beard's doing.
Now, before it's too late.
Fine. And leave you two with a full run of the ship?
All right, then give us your suit. One of us will go.
No dice, gentlemen. If there are any agents on this mission, I'm looking at them right now.
Why do you have a gun on a spaceship?
let him near that intercom, Tony. I don't want him to warn Beard. All right, Colonel. Get out of that spacesuit.
While Ray and the General are trying to decide whether or not the explosion was an accident, Doug is trying to find Beard. This was 1966 and we hadn't been to the moon yet, so we weren't completely sure what walking on it would look like. Why are there so many guns in space? To hold off the metal-munching moon mice? He takes a couple of other items and heads out. And then heads in.
Stand up. Don't touch that intercom button.
He explains his plan, how he's got enough provisions for 6 months, and by then his side's Mars mission will pick him up. Doug says, "You don't really believe that, do you? When you're done, they'll leave you to die. Dead men tell no tales, remember?" That's got Beard hesitating a little. Plus, there's one crew member unaccounted for, and Doug hints that they know what Beard is up to. So he's in a lot of trouble.
At 1400 hours, my security section received a call from Central Intelligence. They informed me that for some time now there's been an enemy agent working within the Space Department. They have reason to believe one of you 3 visitors may be that agent.
Why, this is outrageous, General.
I'm sorry, Admiral, but I really have no choice. You gentlemen will have to be taken to our security center for questioning.
Look here, General.
Please, Doctor. Carry on, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Well, considering that Beard is the enemy agent in the future, but Dr. Brandon was the one who planted that bomb, it's possible you have 2 enemy agents in the space program, and they're both standing right in front of you.
All right, hold it. Brandon, what in the name of...
I said hold it, Admiral.
All right, Sergeant, I'll take that gun.
He's 800 levels underground. There are 100,000 people in this place, and he can't hold all of them off. I do wonder what his exit strategy is. He takes off running, but ends up hiding around the tunnel structure itself. While he plays hide-and-seek with the guards, someone is coming through the hatch on the ship.
Pizarro, get a warning on the intercom.
Help! Command Module 2. I wouldn't.
And there's our missing link.
And there's the distraction Doug needed to do that. He manages to take Beard down, calls the ship, and brings the fuel they need. They have 12 minutes to blast off. But now there's another problem.
Where's Tony?
I went to look for you.
Tony! I'm aboard the ship. We're getting ready to blast off. Get back here immediately. Tony! Can you read me?
He must have his intercom switch off.
And if Beard is still alive out there, Tony could be in big trouble. This is a nice conundrum. But considering what's happened so far and the fact that he's lost half his crew, I'm not sure why the Colonel is so determined to continue on to Mars anyway. Better to take this one home and send the backup team. But that would make for a dull story. Doug is off to look for Tony. He says if we're not back by liftoff time, go without us. Let's recap. Colonel Kane has lost all communication with ground control, which is to say Earth. He doesn't have any way to restore that communication. One member of his crew is dead and another is a traitor who wants to blow up the ship. He's left with himself and his communications officer and 2 mysterious strangers. And he wants to continue on to Mars? Why? To what purpose? He can't send any data back. He can't call for help if he gets in trouble. And as far as we can tell, he doesn't really have any scientists aboard to study the planet when they get there. So what's the point? Being first? Whoopee dingleberries. Again, we've already established that if he scrubs this mission, his backup team can be on their way in plenty of time. I don't know what these writers thought space travel protocols would be in 1978, but it's a safe bet they did not include foolhardy moves like this one. If the safety of his remaining crew is supposed to be paramount, then his job is to head for home. Now! Tony has made his way to the fuel depot, still trying to find Doug.
Okay, Beard. Get up. Let's move out of there.
I have to give Beard credit for one thing. He has made judicious use of that rack of shelves. We saw Beard's bomb fall to the floor during the struggle, so what's going to happen to it? A bomb's gonna do what a bomb's gonna do. Bye, Beard. Meanwhile, 10 years younger Beard is skulking around the tunnel room, much like Brandon is.
Brandon? Brandon? It's Beard. You haven't got a chance.
I've got one chance. You.
You're trapped, Brandon. There's guards everywhere.
It's your job to protect me. Remember my importance to the organization.
Why do I find myself waiting for one of them to say Hail Hydra?
I have to think about the mission.
The mission will be completed. Now look, I'm going to hide out here. You lead them away from me. Then when things cool off, you...
All right, I'll try. Give me a gun. I may need it. Give me a gun.
That wasn't the smartest thing Brandon's done all day. And that's saying something.
Brandon.
Lucky for Brandon, he won't get the chance to do anything dumber. And he forgot, in an operation like the one he's in, everybody is expendable. Nobody is that important to the organization. And since Beard got him to turn around first, it'll be easy to claim that Brandon was about to fire and Beard killed him in self-defense.
The lunar depot has been destroyed. Beard is dead. Repeat, Beard is dead. MEM4 calling MEM4. Kane, do you read me? Can you read me?
What's wrong? Why can't they hear us?
Look.
This day keeps getting better and better. That's what he told Kane to do, but now what? Any survival supplies were in that fuel depot that just blew up. And so far, the control room hasn't yanked them out of there, so who knows if help is coming from that direction. And they don't even have a deck of cards to pass the time. Sorry. Stupid low gravity. The control room is up and running again. Our heroes have about 2 hours of air left. Let's see if that's enough.
Try for a time lock, quick, or we lose them.
Power, all units.
Why did it remove the spacesuits and not their clothes? Because this is television, duh. A better question is why it removed their spacesuits. Why didn't it transfer the suits with them? What happened to the suits? Will somebody go to the moon again someday and find a couple of empty spacesuits? Then some TV preacher will decide that was where that rapture thing really happened up there on the moon, and we missed it. They've landed underground somewhere, and we're hearing explosions. They're in a mine, and it's caving in.
This way! That's blocked off here. Go the other way. Hey, you! Get out of here!
When the dust settles, he has no idea where Doug is, but there are 200 men trapped further down in that tunnel, and it's possible Doug is one of them. To be continued. I confess, the moon effects were terrible. We already knew the moon's gravity is a fraction of Earth's, but we still had people walking normally as if they're in Earth's gravity. There was only so much you could do with a 1966 budget and technology. The story, on the other hand, was well done. The general and the others didn't see what Beard did on the moon, and since he silenced Brandon, as far as they know, he's okay. He and Brandon talked about the mission, so now we're wondering what his 1966 mission is. We know what his 1978 mission was on that spaceship, but what's he up to right now? James Callahan was the perfect choice for Beard because his face has that rare combination of innocence and slimeball, and you never know which one is in control. He played it beautifully. I do wonder what the character will think when he learns he only has 10 more years to live until he accidentally blows himself up, but that's his problem. My problem is, it seems we're abandoning this story thread. Ensign Beard won't be back. Brandon is dead. The control room is repaired, and it's as if it never happened. We establish some mystery organization that's trying to scuttle this project, and they get one episode that leaves us hanging. I'm reminded of all the missed opportunities we discussed in the Wonder Woman series that came several years later. I can envision dozens of stories built around this conflict just off the top of my head, but we're going a different direction. I like to think it's because we want to focus on Doug and Tony in our stories and make the control room issues somewhat peripheral, whereas an ongoing plot of the kind Beard was doing might put too much focus on the present time at the expense of our stars. But that's a guess, nothing more. Right now, we need to get Doug and Tony and the others out of that mine. And Lee Meriwether needs more screen time. Am I right?